All right, it's time for another episode of Betting Weekly Tennis Live, all part of the Bet Rivers Network. And you want to make sure you download that app, get in on the action, make your tennis bets with the best sports book around. Follow our socials at Because We Win, the X account, the Instagram account, and the YouTube account, which is well over 10,000 subscribers. Now it's a great time as we've got 500 level action on the WTA in Guadalajara, 250 level event in Sao Paulo. Joining me now, it's been a minute, but WTA expert Rory Jawani on the show. Rory, welcome back to the show. I know this is a great time of year. We got all this WTA action, but excited to talk tennis with you.
Oh, thanks, Mitch. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, not feeling like an expert at the moment, judging by our P&L on the podcast. But yeah, it's an interesting time. Obviously, no ATP action this week, so it's all WTA. Unfortunately, with the time zone, it's Sao Paulo. We did have some live matches yesterday. It was rain delayed when myself and Tim were on. But today, Sao Paulo starting a bit late, so yeah, we're just going to be looking ahead to some of the later matches today, and some interesting ones. Obviously, week after the US Open, the quality isn't the best, but that does present some betting opportunities in itself. To get involved, obviously alternative bets, spread bets, and you can be a bit adventurous on some of the spreads as well on the handicap.
Yeah, it's as we were saying with Dustin Fox, it's like the fourth quarter of the tennis season post US Open. We've got, and really Guadalajara 500. Like, I'm glad that they have this event going. They moved it around the schedule, but it's this. Then we go to the Asian swing, and then we're just mad dash to the finals. So end of the year. So it's an exciting time. And yeah, the schedule's been a little tough to figure out. Obviously, you can't defeat Mother Nature depending on what happens, but we have some exciting matches to get to. We'll preview. We've got a daily double that you're not going to want to miss as well. We had the match that was in progress, right? Sloane Stephens' return against Stefanini, and she was down a set, but up a break in the second, 5-3, plus 128. And your guess is as good as mine on some of the schedules here, Rory. But what do you think about where this line is right now? Sloane slightly, about plus 128 right now in Bet Rivers, in commanding position of the second set, and then what that would mean if a third set takes place.
Well, I mean, hopefully she'll complete that second set, she'll win it, and then women's tennis, though. I mean, the amount of times you kind of, we almost program to think whoever wins the second set has got momentum going into the decider. It so often fails to work out that way, especially in women's tennis. But, Stephens, obviously, I think we're saying she had 10 defeats in a row before she took a break from the tour, and now she's back, So, I think if she was to win that second set, I would fancy her to complete victory, but, it's always a dangerous one. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We don't know when we're going to get started. I mean, when Nigel and I looked at these two tournaments, the weather forecast was awful for both. So there's going to be some shenanigans with the scheduling, as you say.
We appreciate the support too, and we'll get to some of the futures and other stuff. But yeah, the schedule's part of it too. I think with Sloane though, it's interesting, right? Like normally I would agree with you in the region of the school of thought, rather, that like whoever wins the second, and then what does the second day mean? She hasn't even really been on the court in forever. She was in the booth at the US Open. So in a weird way, this is kind of a good thing. Like, she got a day of tennis in, maybe she'll get another day in to kind of like ease into it. But yeah, it's tough to figure out. And yeah, who ends up playing? Good segue into some of the future stuff, right? Rory, like who gets their matches in is the luck of the draw too. You could have players that have to play twice, and that's just by no fortune other than how bad Mother Nature treats them.
Yeah, I think that's very likely in both of these tournaments. We're gonna, in the latter stages, we're gonna have players playing 2 games in a day, and all it takes is one of them to be a 3-setter lasting 2.5 hours. Both tournaments as well, it's worth mentioning, courts are playing very slow. Even Guadalajara at altitude, the service hole percentages are well down on what you'd expect. So slow conditions, bad weather forecast, it could be tough stuff by the end of the week.
Yeah, hopefully we get some tennis. That's the name of the game. We do have outright winners in Sao Paulo I wanted to get to, and I know one of the players that you're keen on, and yeah, that soccer match was pretty tough to take. That last comment says that was just not what you want to see if you're a fan of hers. Sao Paulo outright winners, no surprise. It's Beatriz, Haddad, Maia at the top. The local Sao Paulo girl there, Alexandra Eala. She wins the 125 and just keeps moseying along. Janice Chen, Zarazua rounding it out. And there you see some other names as well. But a couple things on that board. One, I don't think it's any surprise. And I know, Rory, you've been on the Beatriz Haddad Maia train because she is local. She doesn't want to lay an egg in her hometown. Also do think she found a little something. It had been going pretty bad for her recently, but I think she found a little something in her game. And, you know, no surprise she's at the top. But the other name, like Eala, 280, nipping on her heels, was maybe a little something to consider. But what's your initial thoughts looking at where we are with the futures in Sao Paulo?
Yeah, well, Haddad Maia opened up at plus 240, and I advised her at that price. I just didn't think there was anyone really who would be able to trouble her. As you mentioned, Eala did win that 125 in Guadalajara at the weekend. Both came through their openers very comfortably. I think both of them lost just 2 games in those opening matches. Eala is, you know, she opened up as, I think she was plus 550, so she's halved in price.
Wow,
pretty much after that opening win. Obviously, she didn't beat much. She's going to have far tougher tests to come. I don't think she's going to get a tough test tonight. We will look at that match a little later. It's. I think the bookies have it right. You know, I think those are the two very much the clear favourites for the tournament. Renata Zarazua, I thought, might give Haddad Maia a bit of a challenge in the quarterfinals, assuming they both get there. She was the biggest threat to me to Haddad Maia getting to the final. Obviously, if she plays Eala in the final, that would be interesting. But you know, it's her home tournament. You know, Nigel always says it about Haddad Maia. You know, he's been to quite a few of her matches at the slams, and the Brazilian crowd really root for her hard. And on home soil, you know, if Haddad Maia is in trouble, I just think the crowd's going to get her out of any trouble she's going to be in.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's a very passionate fan base. She's done well there in the past. Yeah, that other name, Chen, it's funny. Never us, never Bet Rivers or Because We Win on social, but some other publications had the audacity, Rory, to call it an upset the other day just by looking at the number on her name. But in all seriousness, what she's been able to do, she had the win at the U.S. Open. She's another name that maybe not this tournament, but one to watch. I know you're locked in on the WTA, but for players that don't know, I think Janice Chen could be one to have some success going forward.
Yeah, she beat Veronika Kudermetova at the US Open, and I saw she lost in the final of a challenger event to the young Croatian, is it Marcinko, who I fancied a couple of weeks ago, and she didn't get very far. Marcinko didn't get out of the US Open qualifiers. But Chen, I've seen she's a nice player to watch. I've seen her compared, her style of play to Ashley Barty in that sort of all court, good variety player. I think she's inside the top 150 now, but she's definitely on the upsurge. And in this sort of tournament, as we say, it's not the strongest tournament there is. She'd have a chance. There are some very weak players in this draw, and you just need a couple of good performances, and you're in the business end of the tournament. So Chen, I mean, I can't see her troubling either of the big two, but she's a promising player.
Yeah, she played her college tennis, Indonesian, but played college tennis at Pepperdine. And I was looking, as you said, that 147 in the rankings. So this is a real time for her. We mentioned last Monday, some people think it only goes to the slams, but from now to the end of the year and really up to Australia, 147, if she starts to have some results, then you start to maybe pick 125, 100. When can she get to main draw entry and not have to go qualifying at the slam?
Yeah.
So that's why you pay attention this time of year. One big result here could change your entire outlook on everything.
Absolutely. You get into the top 80, 90, that's it, main draw, and that's a big thing for a professional tennis player.
Let's look at, and we'll get to the bets, the individual ones, but let's look quickly as we've got options for Guadalajara 500 level event, Rory, in the outright market right now for that one. You see Elise Mertens at the top at plus 210, Ostapenko, Kudermetova right there, Magdalena Freck. Eva Jovic got by at plus 700. She won a trickier matchup, and then you have Jacquemot, Asario, and the names go down from there. So as we look at the top, again, this is a 500 event. We've seen some players crash out that we might have thought would be on this board, but initial observations of where we are with the Guadalajara futures there.
Yeah, well, I've got my fingers crossed because I've got Elsa Jacquemot. I actually had two picks. Alicia Parks was the first. She went out in the first round. Bit of a surprise there. Yeah, Elsa Jacquemot. I saw a couple of comments talking about it, and you mentioned it. Absolutely thrashed Maria Sakkari 6-2, 6-love. I mean, I thought Jacquemot had a chance there, but I didn't expect that. And I selected her at $125 each way for the tournament. Yeah. As you can see, she's now into $11, which is a bit shorter than I thought she'd be. But she does now play Elise Mertens, and that's going to be a tough test. Mertens is very consistent. Did have a disappointment at US Open, of course, losing to Christina Buxer. That was a real surprise. We will look at that match in detail. I mean, I'm always amazed because it feels like Mertens has been around for years and years. She's only 29. I keep expecting her to be in the mid 30s, but
she's been like a gatekeeper in a lot of ways. Like that's like a fighting or boxing or UFC term, but like she's been so consistent that beating her is like something you have to do to just advance along. Like she's always going to get to a point, and she's not some pretty big wins in big situations like 1,000 tournaments in that like +2, +300 range over players you'd expect to beat her. So she's no easy customer for sure.
Yeah, I think Jacquemot might struggle a bit, but I think she's got a chance. I mean, I've been impressed with her in recent weeks, and she's got a chance. But and if she was to get through that, she'd have a real chance of getting to the final. But this is the sort of acid test. Miao went against Mertens. Well, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. I hope Jacquemot can get through. But
a lot of love for Magdalena Freck too. We've seen it in the chats too, and really the odds, like it was plus 1,600. Yeah, there you go. See 16-1 in the UK, up to like that 600 range. Only a couple matches. She's been very, very successful and just solid as a professional there. And then you had Veronika Kudermetova in there, and I mentioned Monday, Rory. She just seems like when you're looking for someone to win these kind of tournaments, that's when she finds her way through. So there's some names here that wouldn't surprise me. Freck in particular, her movement in the lines is very interesting.
Yeah, I think she's a defending champion, so obviously she knows what it takes to win here. But Guadalajara is playing, as I say, it's playing a bit odd because it was really quick 2 years ago. It was sort of medium quick last year. It's been playing extremely slow so far this year. But I think with the bigger servers at altitude, so for instance, we're going to look at Rebecca Marino against Tatjana Maria in a bit. But Marino served 11 aces in that match. And only a handful of players actually are sort of holding serve over 60%. Which is the level you'd expect. 60% is kind of a low service hold percentage. Only a handful of players have exceeded that so far. So it is playing slow, but I think the better servers will be able to get good numbers. So someone like Kudermetova, for instance, who is a big server, who's a very good server, could confound those statistics.
Yeah, Tatjana Maria, I was dead wrong on that. She was insane. That was a great performance by her over Sanmez. I mean, we can look at Mexico too, and I wanted to say too. I mean, Jacquemot is getting a lot of love here, and I think there's obvious reasons why. But you have a tough test coming up. But these matches at Mexico today, I'm assuming today, depending on the weather, looking at the forecast today, looks like it's probably a good day. So it's like the best forecast we got. So hopefully we get a lot of tennis in. But you have a bunch of matches on the board, and we can discuss any that we decide to here, any that you want to go over, Rory. But Marino and Maria, Osario Ivajovic, the American teenager, Ostapenko versus Stakusic. You have Mertens Jacquemot, as we mentioned, and then Kasanseva taking on Veronika Kudermetova. So anything initially stand out? We've discussed Jacquemot, Mertens plus 255 for Jacquemot there, but anything you want to dive into to get us going in Guadalajara?
Yeah, let's start the top one, Marino, Maria. I mean, both veterans, very much so, and they've actually met 3 times before. But you know, last one was last year on grass at Surbiton. We know Maria's at her best on grass, and she actually won that match 6-3 in the third. Marino's not a bad player on grass either. But before that, the previous meeting was in 2018, and before that, 2011. Both on hard court. Marino won them in straight sets, but a lot has happened since then, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, it's I think the serve is going to be vital here, and I think Marino has the edge. So she served 7 out of 9 service holds, 7 out of 9 against Martina Trevisan in round 1. Maria wasn't so good. Can't find the statistics here. Oh yeah, so Marino, 11 aces. She won 65% of her points on first serve. Maria served 5 aces, but only won 55% of points on first serve, and that's a long way down on what you'd expect.
Yeah.
You know, she's not so effective on hard courts. I know, you know, she played well against Sonmez, who has had success on hard courts. But I think Marino's serve could be the decisive factor here.
Yeah.
And so I like her as an underdog here on the money line.
I do too. And we haven't seen Maria win back-to-back matches a lot. Obviously, she won Queen's Club, so we'll see how she responds after, that being a veteran. But yeah, I mean, based on how you described how it's playing too, I think she's in a good spot here to find value. So that's one in particular, Marino, who looked fresh in her matchup. And yeah, can you hit through Tatjana Maria? It's easier said than done, right? Because of the slices and how she's gonna mess with you. But I think Marino has the tools, but can she effectively perform is a whole nother question.
Yeah, I mean that could be one where you watch the first couple of games and then take a view, see how Marino's handling the slice. I mean, Willie K here, I agree with that. Marino has more power in her game than Sonmez. Wow. Yeah, Maria was 38, Marino's 34. Yeah, Marino was. Yeah, when they met in 2018, Marino was just coming back from pretty much retirement. I mean, she took 3 or 4 years out of the game, but she was still she was still playing at a high level. I mean, she's not at that level now, but she's still dangerous. So that should be an interesting match.
That should be an interesting one. Looking at the board too, Ostapenko in a position. You have Ostapenko and Kudermetova, right? I think I wanted to group those two together, Rory, because similar odds, similar positions, more, higher ranked, expected to win. You see that range the same. Do you think it will be for both, for one, smooth sailing, or do you think it's a real interesting opportunity for the underdog?
I mean, does Ostapenko ever have anything smooth, plain sailing in anything? I mean, I just couldn't trust her in a match like this. And there's a good stat here because she's playing Marina Stakusic. They met at the same stage of this tournament last year, and Stakusic won. It was a final set tiebreak. She won the final set tiebreak 7-love. I mean, it's just typical Penko. You just can't, she's just completely unpredictable. I was just seeing Sean's comment there. Mertens had a hip injury against Buxer at the US Open, so she might not be fully tuned up for this.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, so that's the match against Jacquemot. But Ostapenko, you just don't know which Ostapenko is going to turn up. I think in that one you'd want to get with Stakusic somehow, possibly on the spread. Plus 4.5 games, minus 103 seems like a good bet. Whereas we talked about Kudermetova a little bit. I'm really keen on her here. I think these conditions, although it's playing slow, I think with her serve at altitude, I think that's going to be effective. And I remember Jimenez making the girls' semis at Wimbledon a few years back. She hasn't really kicked on in the senior ranks. And Kudermetova, of course, she had a great run in Cincinnati. First round exit to Chien, who we talked about at the US Open, but Kudermetova is awful at slams. She's always terrible at slams.
Yeah.
I mean, Kudermetova, what we got the spread is 4.5 games. I think you could go bigger than that. I think you could go minus 5.5 games at plus 120 for Kudermetova. I think she should overpower Jimenez in that one.
Yeah, looking at Stakusic to win a set in that is plus 104 just to take 3 sets. You can really have some fun there on the over 2.5 set spread at plus 175.
Yeah,
I wonder, and that's just one where I normally, like, you know better than me, like the game spread's a safer way to go and better in a lot of ways. But Ostapenko just has those clunkers, right? Or maybe she does just figure it out and win quick sets too. That's actually what would terrify me for the over under in an Ostapenko match. Is if one way or the other, it's just a 6-love, 6-1 set, and there you sprinkle a bagel or a breadstick in. So who knows? What side of the bed did she wake up on today is my biggest question.
Yeah, she's just so completely unpredictable. I mean, and she has been throughout her career. I mean, she won the French Open in 2017 from seemingly nowhere. On the surface, you'd think she'd be least suited to.
I think it was right before we got these shows going weekly when I came aboard, but that run in Stuttgart was incredible. And then she's beating everybody as a sizable money line dog and top 10 players in the world. So don't count her out.
She wins when she wants. You know, it's kind of when she's in the mood, she's almost unplayable.
That's a good one. Love that one. Yeah. So are there any other thoughts on Mexico before we move along to Sao Paulo? Discuss a little of that.
Just saw a comment that Stakusic took a medical timeout in her first match. So, yeah, maybe with Stakusic against Ostapenko, that's another one. Watch the first couple of games, see if Ostapenko has got out of the right side of bed, see if Stakusic is moving okay, and then get involved.
Can't trust Penko. That's a tale as old as time.
You can't.
But if she's playing a top player and there's a lot of money line value on it, it's definitely worth a shot because she can win those matches. So
yeah,
it's a gift and the curse. All right, Betting Weekly Tennis Live. Mitch Michaels, Rory Giovanni here, continuing on as we look at Sao Paulo. And Guadalajara is a 500 level event. There's still a lot in Sao Paulo to get to. We'll see when the matches are. But Rory, we got a daily double to get to looking at Sao Paulo, and there's some interesting matchups and different plays we want to get to. So I'll throw this graphic on the board. We can discuss it. You got Alexandra Eala and Beatriz Haddad Maia in separate matches as sizable favorites. They're the 2 top favorites in the futures markets. There you see some odds in terms of spread, the money line and the over-under games. But looking at this board, Rory, what's the daily double and why did you attack it as such?
Yeah, so you can see the spreads there they're not the conventional spread. So in both matches, the spread is actually listed as 5.5. But in both cases, I thought we could be a bit bold simply because of the gap in class between the opponents. So for Riera Eala, obviously we've talked about Eala. She won the Guadalajara Challenger last week. Riera is very much a clay court specialist. I thought she might become a top 50 player a couple of years back, but she has stagnated. Whereas, Eala's going from strength to strength. Now, they've met twice before. They were both last year. Riera won the first meeting in French Open qualifying. Eala won the second in a 100K ITF event in Carey. And she won 6-3, 6-1 on a hard court. And Eala has improved a lot since then. Yesterday, she eased past Yasmin Mansouri, lost just 2 games. I think this could be very one-sided. So, the normal spread was 5.5 games at minus 110 for Eala. I think we can go minus 6.5 games at plus 148 because I think this is going to be one-sided.
Yeah, no, Eala has been very, very not just impressive in the sense of what she's meant to the sport and her fans and popularity, but it takes a lot to just still be able to grind and not be overwhelmed by the moment. So what we saw last week in Guadalajara at the 125 and then early in this tournament, it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, sometimes you got to go a little alternate spread or just find a way to cover a bigger line, which hasn't been a problem for your other leg too, Beatriz Haddad Maia. We talked about the buzzsaw that she is playing at home, how she has got the support level, but the game too. Like, you can put the support in one side of it. Her game on the surface, Rory, just looks like it outclasses her opponent in this one.
Yeah, I mean, two Brazilians. Laura Pigossi was ranked as high as 100. She's now nearer 200, but all her best form is on clay. And yes, as we said, Haddad Maia, she's lost 2 games against Emiliana Tona, who's inside the top 400. I mean, you'd have expected that. Pigossi she's a grinder. You know, she will make life tough at times for Haddad Maia. They have met 3 times in the past. 2 were a long time ago. Their last meeting was on clay 3 years ago. Haddad Maia won 6-4, 7-6, but she was ranked 65 at the time. Pigossi 128. So they've gone in different directions since. And I think this being on hard court does give Haddad Maia a big advantage. So yeah, the normal spread was -5.5 games. Again, I just want to push the envelope a bit. It's -6.5 games at +114. I think looks good to me. So that's the second leg of my daily double. We've got Eala -6.5 games at +148. Haddad Maia -6.5 games +114. And the odds for the double is +431. So that's where, you know, and I think, you know, it's going to get tougher for them from now on, but I think they can get through these matches pretty easily. There is the weather concern as well. I think they'll want to get these matches done quickly as well, just so there's no hangover to the next day or anything like that.
Eala is currently ranked 61 going into this week. So another opportunity. It's where you are. You know, her career high was like 56. So if she can keep going, burst in the top 50, we might not be too far off from Alex Eala being a seeded player at a major. Rory. She's absolutely one big result for being right there.
Yeah, I mean, if she was to get to the final here, that would possibly send her into the top 50, perhaps. Wow. And there's plenty of tournaments between now and the end of the season. You know, she has a chance of being a seed for Melbourne in January if she carries on as she's doing.
Yeah, and I was looking at it too, right? Because what we've seen the last couple of years, like the big ranking movers and you know where these players have gone. I mean, look at Anie Samova, right? Now she's at number 4 in the world, and before that Dubai run, I mean, honestly, like it was, you know, she wasn't even in the top, I don't think 40 or so going into it, and now she's a bona fide top 5 player. So daily double, good payout, getting that solid money if the favorites just handle business. And I like the weather angle too, Rory. Like they don't want to get wet, they want to rest up. Like time is of the essence, so let's go.
Yeah, let's hope they can deliver. As I say, it's going to get tougher from now on, but you know, I think they'll try and make light work of these 2 matches.
Yeah, that tops card, I did see that too. Like she is just a popular superstar. I hope the game adds up, and I love that she came out of the Nadal Academy too. So there's no debate on getting high level teaching and high level coaching as well. So let's look at we got some other matches to get to from Sao Paulo that I wanted to discuss. Looking at Brazil, there you see De Silva taking on Sierra and Jones taking on Osuigwe, the American +310, trying to make a name for herself, taking on the British lady Francesca Jones. Sierra is a huge favorite as well. So Rory, thoughts on these matches from Sao Paulo and any betting opportunities?
I wasn't sure there were that many opportunities betting. Well, there is one, I think. I mean, Osuigwe at +270 I thought was interesting. Jones really struggled in round 1 against Lena Glushko in a way you wouldn't necessarily have expected her to. I think the issue, you know, she came from a set down, won 6-3 in the third. I've mentioned it a couple of times recently. All her form is on clay, Jones. And I thought she was a very short price for the tournament based on that. Osuigwe, I actually saw her in 2017. She was I commentated on the Junior Masters that year, and she was the world's #1 junior at that time. And I remember watching her thinking, because you had players like Marta Kostyuk won that tournament. Kaya Yuvan was the runner-up. Jelena Rybakina was in that tournament. She was still representing Russia, I think. And she didn't do much in the tournament. And Camila Osorio was in it, and Maria Lourdes Carlo was in it as well. And I remember thinking of Osuigwe and thinking, she's a junior world #1. I was expecting big things, and I was watching her thinking she doesn't have that many weapons, and it's not really it's not really happened for her in the senior ranks now. I think she's up to her highest ranking. I think she's around 160 at the moment. So she is moving up. I think in her favour, she is solid. And that might be enough against Jones on a hard court. And I'm happy I didn't back Glushko yesterday, but I'm at the point now where I think I'm going to keep opposing Jones until she loses, which might be the route to the poorhouse, but I just don't rate her on a hard court. So even though it's playing slow, Jones on hard just isn't the player she is on clay. And so I think I might have a little go at Osuigwe at +270.
Yeah, Kostuk, Rabakina, and Olga Danilovic were all in that Wimbledon girls juniors, and none of them made it past like round 2 or 3. It was and that just shows you that development takes many forms and many stages. But yeah, Osuigwe is still very young, and there might be value in that position to see looked a little better playing some of these events, getting some entry into some of the American events. So yeah, that'd be one to consider as well. I think, and it's a good place to kind of wind the show down though, but we mentioned it before, the last stop before everyone packs their bags and goes over to the Asian swing though. So the last chance for whether you're Haddad Maia playing at home or just playing in North America in Guadalajara or Central America rather, you've got these opportunities to play the final tournament before you're in an entirely different part of the world.
Absolutely. I just want to mention one point on the other match that was on our screen. It's actually related to what we were talking about. So Nauhany da Silva, she's ranked, I think it's 1200 in the world. She's only 15, but she's ranked 37 in the juniors. And in the junior Wimbledon, she beat Jana Kovačkova, who's in the girls' top 10. And then she fell to Mia Pahankova, who went on to win the title. So, on paper, if you just look at the world ranking, you think she's got no chance. But actually, she's quite a good junior. So I think she's a bit big here. I don't think she's going to win. Sierra is the #2 seed, although, again, she's better on clay than on hard courts. And she had to work a bit against Ariane Hartona in round 1. So, the silver on the handicap might, on the spread might not be a bad bet here. And she's Brazilian. She'll have home support. She's playing in Argentine. She'll have even more home support. So, on the spread, the silver could be interesting. She has got a decent serve, as Willie Kay says. So, Sierra might find that harder than the odds suggest. So, 6.5 games is a big spread. And da Silva could cover that.
Born in 2010. I mean, wow. What have we done here? That's
gotta feel old.
I know, 2010, but no, it's exciting. And yeah, double faults has been an issue. We had the comment earlier about Siniakova had 13 in her loss and 16 from Sierra, but wins in straights, which proves that sometimes you can do it. So great point by Ray Dogs too there. And the little bit of the match that I saw, wasn't really pushing it as well. So I think that's one to watch. We were always looking at new stars, and maybe this could be a little moment too for the Brazilian player as well. But any other thoughts before we wind this show down, Rory, and get ready for an immaculate day of women's tennis?
Let's hope the daily double comes off. I'm not often a favourite backer, but sometimes I do look for the one-sided matches. I do like Marina against Maria as well. I think that's I think I would have probably had that down as a pick and match. So Marino at +107, I think is okay. But we'll go for the favourites on big spreads on the daily double and hope for the best.
Yeah, other player that I was looking at too, just thoughts, we didn't mention her, but Arango I think could make some noise. She gets Storm next round. Storm Hunter. I always want to call her Sanders because that was her name beforehand.
Yeah.
No, I think that could be one to watch too. And yeah, I'm excited to see when we get to, hopefully weather permitting, especially Guadalajara, when we get to the semifinal round. I think it's going to be some exceptional stuff and a 500 level tournament. I know it's the week after the US Open, but a lot of ranking points on the line in Guadalajara and opportunities. So should be good.
Yeah, with Arango, I mean, these conditions are good for her because it's going to be really hard to hit through her because she's one of the best scramblers on the tour. I mean, she got to that final in Merida. She got double bageled in that final by Emma Navarro. I mean, that's a really bad matchup for her because Navarro, when she's on her game, she just doesn't make mistakes and she can hit winners. But Arango is very good at forcing errors. So in these sort of slow conditions, you know, she could go far.
She could. Well, this has been a blast. Mitch Michaels, Rory Giovanni, just want to throw it up again. You see the daily double is going to be the spreads for the favorites. So take the alternate spreads here as we see them for these players to cover this big money 6.5 spreads for each Eala and Haddad Maia. That huge payout if you get that and hit the daily double, well over 4-1. So I can't wait to see it hit and celebrate with you. But Rory, Giovanni, this was fun. Always a blast when we get to do these Betting Weekly tennis live shows.
Thanks very much, Mitch. No, it's been a pleasure. And speak to you again soon.
Oh, absolutely. Can't wait for the next one, whenever it may be. But we know this show will be back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday throughout the tennis season at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Betting Weekly Tennis Live, all on the Bet Rivers Network, and the social channels are Because We Win on the X account, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you go to bettingweeklystudios.com to subscribe to the newsletter as well for some free, excellent content by all of our handicappers. For Rory Giovanni, I'm Mitch Michaels. This was Betting Weekly Tennis Live. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the tennis, and we'll talk soon.